Hey guys, welcome to episode 13 of the Awesome Blossom Knits podcast. My name is Lauren, and as always, I'm coming to you from my home in Japan. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope everyone had a great Christmas, New Year's, whatever other holidays you might celebrate. I know I did. There was lots of eating and resting and knitting, and now I'm ready to get back into a normal schedule. So today I'm going to start the knitting with finished projects. So my first finished projects are these socks. That's Mr. Snoopy. Hey Mr. Snoopy. Hey Mr. Snoopy. And that's Pazu. That's my friend's dog that I'm dog sitting while she's out of town. But anyways, first finished project, these socks that I knit for my son. I did finish them before Christmas, so I put them in his Christmas stocking, and he has already worn them and washed them a few times, so they're a little fuzzy, but here they are. Well, these aren't real sock blockers either. This is some like cereal box cardboard I just cut out just for the purpose of being able to show you these easier. And the yarn is the self-patterning yarn, Super Yarn Active. And the colorway is 5920. And then the contrast heel is in Patton's Croy in the flax colorway. And I just did a 2x2 rib on the whole sock and a short row heel, which I'll talk more about which short row heel specifically I used when I show you my next finished pair of socks, because it's the same one on those. Yeah, I don't think I have anything else to say. Oh, I think there were 56 stitches, and I used size 1 or 2.25 millimeter needles on these ones, and they're for a 7-year-old. So he's got room to grow in them. The 2x2 rib is nice and stretchy. That was number 1. The next finished project is these Christmas story socks. These ones are for myself. And these are knit out of Legacy Fiber Arts Cozy Toes sock yarn, which is a merino cashmere nylon sock yarn blend. And the colorway is called A Christmas Story. So these were Christmas socks for me. And let's see. Here they are. I really like the yarn. It's really soft. The colorway was really fun to knit. So I didn't use a sock pattern per se on these, but I used a stitch pattern I got out of a stitch dictionary that was called Uneven Rib. And I put notes about it, about the uneven rib stitch pattern, on my projects page on Ravelry for these socks. So if you're interested, if you want to knit a similar pair of socks, you can go look at that on my project page. And I will link to my Ravelry in the description box below, so you can find that. I knit these ones on size 0 needles. Let's see, which is 2 millimeter, and I use the Chowgu red lace needles in a 32-inch circular size, and I do magic loop. I knit pretty much all my socks magic loop from the cuff down using German twisted cast on. And then I usually do a fish lips kiss heel, but I wanted to try a different kind of short row heel this time. I've done German short rows in the past, and I just kind of wanted to try some other short row heels because I like the fish lips kiss heel so much, but you know, try new things. So I looked up short row heels and I found an Arne and Carlos video on YouTube about how they do their short row heels. And so that's what I did on these. And I really like the method. It's short rows and then you use decreases and increases to close the gap. So it's not wrap and turn, it's not German short rows. It's just a different, I'm not sure if there's a name for the method exactly, but you do decreases to close the gaps and then you increase to make up for the stitch you decreased out. And this is the first one I did. And this is the side. So short row heel, of course, you're knitting back and forth. So on one side you're knitting and the other side you're purling. And this is the side where I did the purl 2 togethers to close the gap. And then this is the side where it was knit 2 togethers to close the gap. And I don't know if you can tell, but they don't look exactly the same. The two sides aren't exactly symmetrical, I guess. On the purl 2 together side, it kind of lines up nicely, but then on the knit 2 together side, you get these like lines from the decreases kind of going at almost at a perpendicular to the what do you call this? The miter line here, I guess. So on the next one, I tried, instead of doing knit 2 together for the decrease, I did slip, slip, knit. And I think it worked out neater. It looks more like the purl 2 together side. It's symmetrical. So I'm not sure if all of that made sense, but the point was I used the Arne and Carlos short row heel and then I changed it some. I experimented a little bit and changed it so that it's a little bit more symmetrical and maybe neater, in my opinion. The other thing about these socks, when I was watching that video from Arne and Carlos, I noticed that Arne was purling very strangely, or it was very strange to me the way he was purling. And I read down in the comments, and someone else I think asked about it, and someone had answered and said that it was Norwegian style purling. It was kind of hard to see what he was doing in the video because he knits so fast. So I looked up some other videos on how to Norwegian purl, and it's such a cool method. I can't believe I didn't find it sooner. But basically, the way I learned to purl, and I think probably most people purl, is you bring the working yarn to the front. I guess it's to the front towards you. Normally when you're knitting, your working yarn is on the other side, but you purl, you bring it to the front. And so when you're doing ribbing or whatever, you're switching back and forth. But with the Norwegian purling, you don't have to move your working yarn to the front of your work. It just stays there. And it looks really complicated at first. Like, it looks like there's a lot going on, but it's a really fluid motion. So once I got the hang of it, I feel like it made ribbing a lot easier. It made the rest of these socks just, I don't know, a lot more enjoyable to knit. Not that I hate knitting ribbing, but it just made it kind of easier and more fluid, I guess. Made it more fun. So that's how I have been purling since I discovered that. And I'm really glad I found it. So if you have not heard of Norwegian purling, I would highly recommend you look it up because it's awesome. So, and I'll link to the Arne and Carlos video where I originally saw it, the Arne and Carlos short row heel video that I referenced. I'll put that in the description box below so you can go check that out if you wish. So next finished project is my sock head cowl, and that is a pattern by Kelly McClure, and I knit this out of Malabrigo sock yarn in the Persia colorway. And Kelly McClure is, of course, the one who wrote the pattern for the sock head hat. Let me put this on. Oh, okay. All right, just messed up my hair. Okay, so here's the cowl, and it has ribbing on both ends, and then it's stockinette in the middle, and I really like it. I think this is going to be really useful. The ribbing is nice because it keeps it nice and snug here, so it's not like gaping open, and you can kind of put it up on your face and it holds it nice and snug there. I really like it. Yay! So the sock yarn, Malabrigo sock, let me see if I still have the tag for that. Yeah. So it is, what is it? It's 100% superwash merino wool. So, Malabrigo, Persia. And this is what I have left. In the pattern, there's actually instructions for how to knit it and like use up your entire skein of yarn if you want to, but I didn't follow the instructions. I just knit the length that it said in the pattern. I didn't weigh my yarn or anything to know when to start the ribbing. I just kind of did it. Had a little bit left over, but this will be fine. I can put it in my scrap blanket, which I'll show you in a few minutes, and I can use this for contrast colors on other socks and things. So yeah, that's the sock head cowl. Love it. I haven't blocked it yet. I don't think it really like needs it, but I'll probably do it anyway, just to do it, just to say it's 100% done. So yeah, that color is really beautiful tonal, kind of deep blue and gray. So one final finished project, and that is these socks. Also knit these for myself. The pattern is the Vanilla Latte Socks by Virginia Rose Jeans. I have knit this pattern once before for a pair of socks for my husband. This is the first time I've knit them for myself. It's a really fun pattern to knit, and I like the ribbing. I think ribbing on socks just makes them fit so much better. So the yarn is Regia, Arnie, and Carlos. This is the Arnie and Carlos episode, apparently. And I can't find the tag, but it's Arnie and Carlos, and the colorway is 3653 Star Night. Again, that's from Regia. And it's a self-patterning yarn, obviously. I used the same Patons Croix in the flax color for the heels as I did on these socks for my son. It's just a good neutral, neutral color that goes with a lot of things for heels. Plus it's Patons Croix, so it's really, you know, a sturdy yarn to use for heels. I believe this Regia is 75% wool, 25% nylon, as is the Patons Croix. I knit these also on a size 0, 2mm. I knit them on the same needles as my Christmas Story socks. And I used the same heel that I did on those, so the short row heel using decreases and increases. I really, really love this color. This skein was one of the skeins of yarn I got from Lisbeth from the Knitting Teaspoon podcast. I think I showed on the last episode. And it's really beautiful. And I have this much left, so a good little ball of it left. Right, so that is all of the works in progress. I do have, no, sorry, that's all the finished projects. I do have one work in progress, and it's not a knitting project, actually. It is crocheting. This may be the first crochet project I've shown on the podcast. I don't remember. But it is this scrap blanket that I started. So the pattern is called Easy Hexagon Pattern by Elizabeth Pardue. And I'm using a 3.5 millimeter, which I believe is an E hook. And it's all sock yarn scraps. And I am not going to go through what every single one of these is because it would just take too long, but a couple of them are my hand-dyed yarn. There's a lot of Knit Pick Stroll in here. There's some Patton's Croy. Yeah, I really love it. So I have some more hexagons already crocheted that I just need to sew on there. I'm leaving the tails, and that's what I use to sew them together. So I just am whip stitching the hexagons together. Once I get a nice little stack of them, I kind of lay them out on the table and figure out where I want to sew everything together, and then spend a little time stitching them together. I'm going to be repeating the colors. I'm not going to stick to just doing one hexagon for each colorway of yarn because it will probably take me like 10 years to have enough sock yarn scraps to make a whole blanket if I was going to stick to just doing each square or each hexagon. Only one hexagon of each color of yarn, if that makes sense. So I will be repeating them. I've pretty much crocheted a square out of every color of scraps that I have so far between this and the other stack, except for ones that I finished recently. This is the scraps from my Christmas Story socks, and I haven't made a hexagon out of those yet, but I did do a hexagon here with the Star Night color. And each hexagon also uses very little yarn. It's like 1.5 grams of yarn. So yes, very little scraps of yarn. And I love it. I think that is all I have for you today, guys. I did have some new podcasts I have been watching and wanted to mention, but I forgot to write them down, and I don't want to get anyone's names wrong or anything, so I think I'm going to save that for the next episode. But you can check the description box below. I'll put, some show notes down there, pattern names, stuff like that, and I'll link to my Ravelry and my Instagram and my Etsy shop and all of that fun stuff down in the description box below. And until next time, thank you so much for joining me today. Bye!